Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Donna. It's so good to be with you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. It is so good. It's always good to be with you. It's always good to see your lovely face.
Thank you so much. And it's always good to see yours too.
Thank
We
you.
have a
Thank you.
mutual admiration society here.
I love it. I love it. That's so important in life, right?
Absolutely.
hmm So, Sarah, I,
Yes.
I want to again welcome you to discuss your current book, The COVID-19 Toolkit, Mindfully Manage Stress and Anxiety. And I don't know how long ago you wrote Crossing Rough Waters.
It was 10 years ago last year.
Wow. Well, happy
And
anniversary.
so, yeah. And, I have really been thinking that I want to either add to this book because I've learned so much in the 10 years or just write another book
Yeah.
about it. But then COVID hit. And I thought, I can't just focus on the first book. I really need to go where life is taking me right now.
So then, speaking of where life is taking you, first of all, you live in Arizona.
I do.
And I just want to say you are a beautiful 78-year-old.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love being 78.
I know you do. I know you do.
I know I shock people, but I love it. And I love that, so I live my life in a very spiritual way. And so I'm so grateful that I've been allowed to be here for 7, 8 years and that I'm still being used
Absolutely.
in a way that I know, I shouldn't say hope, I know it makes a difference in people's lives. And so that's really important to me. And I say that with all humility.
I'm grateful by your example, your energy, your wisdom, and I am appreciative of our relationship. And, we were talking a minute ago just about how far I've come. And
Oh my.
I contribute that progress, that enlightenment, partially to the relationship I've had with you. And so you are a spiritual coach. Can you
Mhm.
tell me a bit about what spiritual coaches do?
I've been a coach for many, many, many years. And it started out that I started out being a coach when I was working for United States Catholic Conference, welcoming refugees from Southeast Asia into the United States here in Arizona. And I was working as a job developer. They were not able to speak English well, and I wasn't able to speak their language at all. But I was able to sense who they were and where they'd been, and working with an interpreter, I was able to help them get settled in their life. And wow, I was hooked at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after doing that, I started a program through my late husband's agency called Job Mart, because all during the time I was working with refugees, the employers kept saying, well, I'll hire refugees anytime because they always work hard. Well, I believed that I could help Americans develop more and better who they are so that they could work well too. And from there, it just exploded. And so I've been doing life coaching. I've done leadership coaching. I've done work in organizational management and organizational design and helping managers and executives become better leaders in their organizations. I, I have just allowed myself to be led and guided all along the way to how I could best be used with people. And so, but I always did it from a spiritual point of view, but I never talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
because people weren't ready for that at the time that I was doing it. Now, uh, since I'm not working for anybody else, only myself, I am purely a spiritual coach. And that doesn't mean religion. It doesn't mean I'm trying to help people believe what I believe. Spiritual coaching, from my point of view, means that I see everybody as a sacred human being. And everybody comes from the place of their sacredness, whether they know it or not. My job is to help facilitate that for them and help them understand what their God-given gifts are, or their gifts, wherever it comes from, and how they are best able to use that so they're not stuck in the world's definition of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
but moving out to be who their best self is in the world from a very sacred point of view, and to help them see that they are indeed sacred.
Yeah,
That's what it's about.
that is what
So,
it's about.
so that's what I do. Yes. I love it.
Yeah. And so everything you just described totally aligns with the purpose of this interview.
I'm so excited that you're doing this.
I'm so excited that I'm doing it with you.
Well, it's just been a gift. It's really an amazing experience to really see the world and me in it from that point of view. And knowing that everyone who comes to me by the grace of God. I mean, I don't advertise.
Yeah.
And so I advertised one time through a public service announcement here in Arizona. Ooh, that was a disaster, because people who came to see me were just all over the place, and they were some of the most disturbed people that I've encountered in this work, for which I was very sorry for them. But I am not a therapist. I'm
Yeah.
very clear that I'm not a therapist, and that is not my work. And so one of the things I used to do is I would always work with a therapist that I could refer people to, so that when people came and they were having great difficulties, and I knew that I was not equipped to help them. I probably could, but I did not feel that I was really the best one to serve them. Then I could refer them to a therapist in a very gentle kind of way that was not judgmental at all, but just talking about how I am not equipped to be able to help you with the issues that you're dealing with. So,
You
yeah.
know, that brings to mind the way we met. So I met you, and you were my leadership coach
Mm-hmm.
through my employer, and I was attached to you from the moment I met you.
Really?
I really was, and I think I made it very clear to you when we met. I'm never letting you go.
Yes, you did. And that's probably been, what, 10 years ago?
Yes, it's been a
It's been a long
while.
time. Yeah.
You are my spirit mom. You are my spiritual mom, and you inspire my life so much.
Thank
Um,
you, Donna. Thank
just
you.
you
You
know,
inspire me.
thank you. But one of the things we talked about when we first started working together, you were my coach, my spiritual coach,
Mhm.
and you would work with people. I think you told me 3 to 6 months, and then you would send them out in the world. And I was the one person who came into your life, and you changed your mind about that. Because like some people need more than 6 months, and I was
Well,
definitely one
that's
of those
when I
people.
understood. And the reason I had that time frame set on the length of time that I would work with people is that I did not want to develop dependency. I didn't want people to see me as their guru. And yet I know that because of my manner, because of what I've been given, whatever, it's very easy for people to attach to me like that. And I wanted them to understand their power. I wanted everybody to understand what comes to them. And so I limited it. And because of the time that you and I spent together, okay, and so my other thing was, okay, Donna, I'm willing to work with you more as long as I see you're growing. But if you just not going to do your work, I don't have time for that. Remember me telling you that?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I do.
But that was a gift to me too, because who am I to limit it? You know, but at the time, I thought I was. I thought I was doing people a gift. And so we would look at 3-month segments and we'd talk about how you'd grown or what you had left to do. And I've done this with other people now too. It's the way I work with people. So if I see and can feel and sense how they are working and they have grown and they're doing their work, then I can work with them some more, but we have to have another plan. So we have to keep developing plans along the way. And that has been a gift. So I thank you for that. I had another man that I was working with that way too, because I worked with him for 3 months and I was ready to just say, okay, Chuck, we've come to the end of our 3 months. And he said, oh, no.
Oh, no, he was like me. No, you ain't going nowhere.
And, you know, it was an incredible gift to me. And I always say that if I am not growing as much as my clients are, then I'm not doing my work. So it's not just about the coachee, it's also about the coach.
And you made that clear, yes.
I think it was Marianne Williamson or somebody said, oh, I know, the Course in Miracles says, the teacher becomes a student and the student becomes the teacher.
I just ordered that book.
You just ordered it?
It arrived. It's in waiting for me to pick up from the mailroom.
It's awesome. And people work with that book for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that just you read through it and you're done. No, you process that book. But, you know, I have a number of books like that. But anyway, The Course in Miracles, that was one of that. And my other favorite book.
I know what you're going to say. Wait. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
That was, can I tell this story?
Please.
About working in Washington, D.C.?
Oh, yes, please.
And going and having, my life was just, my life was a huge challenge at the time. Every single aspect of my life, it was a mess. And so I kept looking for ways to be able to come into balance because I knew something was wrong. I mean, there was a lot wrong. And so this one day, I walked from my office at 1st and C Street Northwest in DC to this bookstore, the name of which I can't remember, but it's a very popular and very well-known bookstore. And I would always go in there and stand in front of the self-help section. Help me. And this one day, I was standing in front of the self-help section and You Can Heal Your Life fell off the bookstore, off the shelf.
Wow.
And I was not standing against it. I was like a ways from the shelf. And this book fell off the shelf and landed at my feet. And I picked it up and looked at it and went, oh my God, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
I still am using this book today, what, 30 years later.
I'm still using page one with people. So let me just quickly read page one. And if people can really be honest with themselves about these two questions. So it says, which of these statements sound like you? People are out to get me,
Mhm.
or everyone is always helpful.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's really hard for people to acknowledge their thoughts if they believe people are always out to get them. But then she goes on to say each one of these beliefs will create quite different experiences. What we believe about ourselves, about life, becomes true for us. And if we really think about it, those two questions are really uh, good questions to ask ourselves, because in our mind, we're usually operating in either one of those areas. People are out to
Absolutely.
get me, or everybody's always helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember that when I first bought that book, I carried that book in my briefcase. I went to bed with it. I woke up in the morning with it. I took it to work with me, but I didn't let anybody see that I was reading it because they would have thought, she's lost it or something. I depended on that book so much, particularly the most powerful meditation is in that book that I have ever read and experienced in my life. And it's about knowing that everything is right in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, how is it not right? And what are you going to do to make it right? How are you going to heal that particular issue in your life?
Yeah. And then Louise's story is so powerful. It's not like this woman just wrote a book because she wanted you to know you can heal your life.
Right.
She healed her own life. She not only healed her life after going through some real trauma as a young person, she was able to heal her life. Her mother, who
Mm-hmm.
contributed to the trauma she experienced in life, she
Mm-hmm.
was able to forgive and help her mother, or create a relationship and a connection with her mother that her mother didn't even know how to do.
Right.
So she was a leader in her family, then working with people who were AIDS and HIV positive, and just helping that community where at a time they were really ostracized by community and
Right.
misunderstood. Um, and so her work with helping people to see and love themselves,
Yeah.
amazing work. What a legacy.
She um, she's a very powerful woman,
Even in
even
her
though
death.
even in her death. That is, when I'm working with people, that's one of the books that I insist they buy.
I think that's why I have it.
Absolutely, absolutely. She changed my life, that's for sure. And I was sharing with you earlier that when I said my life was totally out of balance, totally terrible. Uh, when I first moved to Washington, D.C. and worked in my office, which shall remain nameless, it was a part of one of the denominational offices on the Hill. And I was, at the time I went to work in Washington, I was a public policy lobbyist for one of the denominational uh, bodies.
Mhm.
And the people in my office were not prepared for there to be me, an African American woman, working in that office. On the Hill, I was probably, I think, in all of the denominational offices, I was the second Black woman who was hired. At the time I went to work there, the Congressional Black Caucus they had just formed, and there were 5 people.
Wow.
It was a whole different ball game than it is today. But in my office, I had the man who was my director of the office set me up and gave me 2 divisions of the church of this large denomination to work for, gave me 2 divisions to represent on the Hill. Everybody else only had 1. And then I discovered I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting any of the newsletters, any of the information. This was before we had computers and LAN systems and, the phones that you can, get messages on and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He was intercepting all of my mail and hiding it from me.
Wow.
So he intercepted all of my mail for 6 months. And my friend Adele worked in Chicago, and she came to visit me in DC. And he told her, "Don't be surprised if Sarah tells you she's going to resign. She's having trouble doing her work." And I was having trouble. I could not figure it out because I'd go to these meetings at Family Service America or wherever I was going, and I wouldn't have the information. And they'd say, "We don't know what's happening because we sent it to you." And well, I wasn't getting it. Well, we all discovered, but I discovered particularly why I wasn't getting it is that he was intercepting it. When it was discovered that he was having an affair with one of the people in the office, and the bishop had asked him to resign, and I say something led me to the drawer that all of the stuff was in that was supposed to come to me.
Isn't it stupid how people save the evidence that can be used against them? Like,
I couldn't believe if he was going to do it, he should have thrown it away.
Right.
But no, there was a whole huge drawer that was full of 6 months worth of material that should have been mine. That was one of the things that, I kept saying, I've only heard God's voice one time. And it was when I would walk across the Capitol grounds to my office. And I'd be crying and asking, "Why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here?" And I'd ask that all the time. And one day the message was, all you have to do is just be yourself, and that will be quite enough.
Isn't that beautiful?
Those were the exact words. And I thought, I don't have to walk fast, talk fast, be different. I can just be me. And so I would be in these meetings where people would be talking fast and, expecting instant answers. And I'd say, well, I need to give that some thought.
Yeah.
And I would drive them crazy. But I was surviving. Louise Hay, I wish that I had written to her now and shared with her how she really saved my life during that time. That was 30 years ago. Wow, I was in my 40s. And it was hard, very difficult. But today I look back on that time and say, yes, I survived it. I did more than survived. I exceeded more than I ever thought possible.
Yeah.
I developed strength more than I ever thought possible. I love being a Black woman. I love who I am today in a way that I never thought possible. And it was all that stuff, going through that stuff on the Hill.
Were deliberately trying to destroy you.
They were. It was very intentional. But at the time, I would not acknowledge I did not acknowledge the racism or the vulnerability that I felt to them. But um, because I didn't want to become the victim.
Right.
I really just, it was like Rodney King said, can't we just get along?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do. But they weren't having it. Anyway, but I did. So the focus wasn't on that. It was on how am I being used to do the work of the people? How am I being used to make a difference? And I was being used with healthcare reform during the time when Clinton came. And and I brought people in from around the country who were in charge of these social service agencies to speak to the transition team about how they were serving the people in the country. It was an honor. It was so incredible.
Yeah.
I never expected to be in that spot. Because, we talked before and I said to you, I don't have a degree. That was part of their problem, is that I didn't have the credentials to do the work that I was doing. I didn't need, I didn't, not even that I didn't need it, I didn't have time to do the work to get those credentials because I was just moving too fast.
Yeah.
There was too much going on and I couldn't take a break. I had to work on healthcare reform.
Well, let's fast forward a bit, Sarah, because all of that experience set you up for what you were doing to write this COVID-19. Get in there. COVID-19 toolkit. There it is.
Yes.
And so you were working at the Chicago Child Care Society to
Right.
develop a program and mechanisms to mediate the success faced by its staff and the participants there. And so, again, I'm so inspired by your life because you continue to work to provide service and to be a really effective coach. And tell me a bit about, first of all, how'd you end up doing this?
So COVID hit.
Yes.
And I'm here in Arizona and I'm thinking, I can't be on the front line with people, but I can help people who are on the front line. When I was living in Sedona, I was doing work with Sedona Soul Adventures, and people would come from all over the country and they would come to my house for me to work with them. And this one day, this woman came to me who works for Disney in LA. And she and I connected like that. And she said, you got to meet these people. You got to meet these people. Well, that's her two best friends, she said. One of them happened to be the CEO of Chicago Child Care Society. I couldn't believe it. So I couldn't believe it. And that's how I connected. And so when COVID-19 hit, I called her up and I asked her whether or not she was working with a coach with her people. No, she hadn't even thought of that. And I said, well, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to be a coach for your frontline staff who were out in the neighborhoods. And that was shortly after George Floyd had been murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just so much racial tension in Chicago. And so that's how it all started. And I did, so I worked with staff individually. And then one day they said to me, Sarah, would you do 6 webinars for our staff? And so I said, okay. So I did 6 webinars for the staff. but I always during that time did what I called Coaching Fridays. And whoever signed up could come that day, only on Friday. And the rest is history. I just finished in December last month, doing 3 webinars for them to wrap it up.
And
And,
you wrote this book for
I wrote the
them.
book. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is awesome.
It was quite a journey, just to be with them. I love them and they love me. And I'm so grateful. I love my life.
I love your life too. I'm
And you know
grateful.
what? I'm grateful for Zoom, because if we didn't have Zoom and if we didn't have social media and all that stuff, I wouldn't be doing this work at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me a bit about what's in this toolkit.
I believe this is the way I set up the webinars. The first set of webinars, the 6. This book is based on those webinars,
Okay.
but it's mainly based on my belief that people can get through anything in life if they know who they are. We can overcome some of the darkest periods in our life, most challenging periods in our life, if we have a good sense of ourselves. So, I've said to you, everybody needs to be working for themselves first. So we need to know who we are. So this book it takes people through what are the right questions. What are you challenged by today? And how do you need to be approaching that? So there's a list of right questions to ask yourself about whatever the issue happens to be. And then how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I love anything that addresses feelings, because there was a time, as you know, that I didn't think my feelings mattered. It's like, oh, well, I don't like doing this. I don't like the way it feels. But I just got to do it because it doesn't matter how I feel. And it does matter how you feel.
It does matter. Our feelings are the barometer for how we're going to live.
Yeah.
And so we have to know our feelings, and and people think sometimes they just get stuck in their feelings. They don't understand that we have the power to shift from negativity to positivity. It all has to do with our attitude and how we approach it. And that's hard. It's not easy, but we have the power to do that. So it's about that. Because what I'm also interested in is people becoming resilient, to be able to rise up out of the depths of the darkness or the negativity and become resilient. I say you build your resilience bank or bucket. We have enough stuff. We put it in our resilience bucket that we can pull it out and become positive. And then I have, what I did with them is had them look at assessments. So there's assessments about your values, about your skills. And this is all coming together really to empower yourself so that you can make it through COVID-19. So, I'm living like a hermit now. That's not my normal way that I live. But it doesn't mean that I totally know who I am, because we're always growing and we're always changing. But I have a pretty good sense of who I am now.
And at your core, you have always been who you are.
Exactly.
And so even with assessing your feelings and developing resilience, it kind of starts with knowing who you are and asking yourself, you know, one question you have here is, how positive am I feeling today? How important is my well-being for myself? Do I feel out of balance? If you don't know who you are, it's kind of hard to know if you're feeling out of balance.
The thing that I believe is that is a little book, even though it's called the COVID-19 Toolkit, it's a little book for life. How are you going to manage your life?
Yeah.
So there's a page in there that talks about the different ways that you can, what are the external things we can use? And so I use essential oils. And when I'm working with people, I
Getting them
have
right there
them,
too.
yep, I have people use frankincense and lavender as a way of just calming the whole thing down.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling really anxious, there's something called rescue remedy that I have people use. And,
Mm-hmm.
there are things that we can do, meditation, like you talked about.
I'm looking at page 20 in the COVID-19 toolkit, and I love this. It says, identify your fears so that you can deal with it directly. And Iyanla Van Zant says, call a thing. Tell yourself the truth about what's causing the fear. And it is so important. You can lie to everybody else if you choose to do that, but keep it real with yourself. Call a thing a
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's basically what this book is about. It's a book of empowerment.
And it's not just for COVID-19.
No.
This is a book that will help anybody in any aspect of life, anybody who needs to mindfully, um, I mean, we all need to mindfully manage our stress
Mhm.
and anxiety, but it is a toolkit for anybody at any
Right.
time.
Right.
So,
So that
Sarah, are you going to write another book for other people, or for not just post COVID-19, but just a toolkit to help people mindfully manage stress? I think you mentioned to me also that you wanted to develop this book even more because you thought of ways to expand. So
Mhm.
tell me about what you think would be a great addition to this toolkit.
Oh, I'm planning to, yes, thank you very much, Donna, because I'm planning to rewrite this, not much, but just some additions that are really to help people look at the scope of their lives. And so, one of the things I believe is we always need to be working for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of who we're working for. We always have to be looking at our personal vision and mission for our life, because that is the lens through which we see everything that happens in our life. If we don't do that, we're so vulnerable to what others say we should be doing with our life. It also gets in the way of our own creativity for our life. How are we living creatively? How are we seeing the broad scope of what we came here to do? So I believe wherever we are, it's where we're supposed to be. So the job that you're in right now, whether you might say, oh, that's just not me, but we need to be working for ourselves, because if we're working for ourselves, we're doing that job, but we are looking at how do we balance our life?
Mm-hmm.
How do we live in balance? How do we live in harmony and alignment with all that we are? So we may need to add some things to it, like you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And so that's the expansion that I want to um, include in this toolkit. I might call it something other than a toolkit, but it's it's for life. How do we live our best life, which
Yes.
is what you're doing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually, it's very interesting that I just recently looked at the mission and vision statement and the core values statement that you and I created almost a decade ago. And I was so proud when I read this because it's like I'm doing it.
Yes.
I'm actually doing it. And I'm so excited that you helped me to develop this because it was really difficult for me to do this. It was difficult to do it with you because my mind was all over the place. But it was really difficult to try to do this alone. And you really helped me to think about where I wanted my life to go and gave me opportunities to just broaden my perspective about certain concepts. And so I truly, truly am grateful to you and all the work we have done together.
You should pat yourself on the back because you were open, you were ready for it. And you did the work. You did your work. That's all I ask of people is just do your work because I can't do it for you.
Right, right.
I can help you, but I'm not the one. I'm not you,
Yeah.
you know? And so, what I want everybody to do is to feel the gift that they are, to know the gift, understand the gift that they are in the world. And sometimes the work that we're doing for somebody else isn't big enough. It doesn't allow us to live out the expansiveness of who we are. So we have to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, for me, that was never letting you go.
Well, I just, it's a gift to me too. So I'm glad that I was able to help you. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm so proud of you. And where you are today it's light years away from where you were when I first met you.
I'm so proud of me too. Thank
You
you.
should be proud of yourself.
Thank you.
You have done an exceptional job. You
And
make me proud.
yes, Mama. And it's only the beginning. And then how do I share that with other people so that I can, in the words I gained from you, make my life a teaching?
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's about. And it's not about whether or not anybody approves of it or disapproves of it or anything. It's about being who we are.
Yes.
Being who we are. And so if we can just do that, we will have done a lot. We'll have really honored the gift of the life that we came here to live.
Yes.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah, that is what it's about. So as you're talking, I'm looking at your first book, Crossing Rough Waters, and I just want to read this. It says, "We are sacred beings with the ability to love fully, and from a place of love, we have the power to change things. Investing in ourselves to heal the pain and fear that has kept us from living our best life is necessary for us as individuals. The work we do for ourselves leads us to a life of personal freedom." Isn't that beautiful?
It's the truth.
It's the truth. Sarah, thank you so much for spending this time with me.
You are so welcome. And thank you for inviting me.
Oh,
Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this part of your life.